Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here, this time doing another Halloween film review, and this one is on the 2012 film ParaNorman. Now, as you know, ParaNorman was a 2012 comedy horror film, which of course was produced by the same guys who made Coraline, and I only watched bits and pieces of the film ParaNorman there and there, and the best I can say after sitting down to watch the film properly and doing it for my Halloween film reviews, the best I can say is that it feels like a sort of prototype to the Netflix film Wendell Wild, but I think the only difference is ParaNorman felt like it was more getting things done quickly, while Wendell Wild knew what it obviously had to be, despite the virus that kind of happened during 2020. So the premise of the film is meant to follow Norman Babcock, who is meant to be this 11-year-old town outcast who lives with his family, seeing the ghosts of people who tragically died in that, and we see how he ends up meeting a deranged homeless guy who obviously tells him about the witch's curse, and of course Norman has to kind of learn more about this witch, obviously more about these sort of zombies that appear out of nowhere, and of course it does the typical fashion. Character who's the town outcast has to learn more truth about the town. They end up meeting a town of misfits, or people who are meant to be foils to him, and obviously trying to do the whole saving the city or town before things get worse. And I think for the most part, I think Norman's character works fine. Like, he's maybe this kid who is obviously still trying to figure things out, despite what his friends say about him, despite what his family say. But the problem is, when you got characters like his parents being a bit justifiably curious with him, it's a bit hard not to sort of agree with them. And yeah, they kind of also try and do the whole film redemption arc where the zombies are kind of later revealed to regret their actions for what they've done, and it does come off as a little enforced. And I think it's a shame when you've got the film's sort of more tragic villain. They don't do much with her. They don't try to paint her as being this kind of made to be in a negative image. And I think it's a shame they do waste Joe Farland's talent as the character Agatha Pardinghast, because you can really tell she was trying to play this more tragic character. But the problem is, we've never seen much merchandise or stuff that accused her or made her into a bit of a negative light, and it could have done more with her character, and I think it's a shame. I think the problem is the difference between ParaNorman and Wendell Wild is that when you've got scenes with the grandma, they could have built it up before her death and could have built more for Norman, obviously speaking with her ghost sometime afterwards and learning about his connections of talking to other spirits. I think what Wendell Wild gets right at, when you've got the character Catherine, who's obviously meant to kind of show, yeah, she does feel responsible for her parents' death, but we as the audience got to see her parents. We got the sense that she was this good kid who was dealt with a really crappy hand. I think what made the two villains work, Imgrad and Lane Claxton, work, was that they were quick to do questionable and, if not, immoral things to get what they wanted. Us as the audience could see, they just didn't show any concern or care. They didn't need a sort of enforced redemption arc. I think what the film is trying to do, which I think is for the positive reasons, is show the dangers of, yeah, idolizing things from the whole Salem witch hunt, and by the end of the day, it was innocent people who got accused for things they didn't even commit. I think there's the same reason when working on my Power Rangers reboot, I would obviously do a Red Ranger who was obviously meant to be a family of a descendant of witch hunters, and obviously learning about his magical roots from his mother's side. There could be a lot more done. I think it's the same reason I think the Owl House did it better when they showed Luce obviously seeing the dangers of basically when he helped basically Emperor Barlos, and they made it clear that he still had to live with the damages she unintentionally caused, helping him when she ended up in that time traveling episode, and it showed the consequences of it. I think the problem that ParaNorman is trying to do is trying to be something like a old 80s inspired cliche, but it feels like there was a lot more that could have been done. I think there's a lot more ideas that could have built things from the ground up. I think the problem is when you obviously have Norman's newfound friend, Nail Dome, he's just there to be added in. And when you've kind of got the school bully Alvin, he's just there. There's nothing really interesting about the film. I think what made Wendell Wild more believable was because, yeah, when you've kind of got Catherine obviously meeting the sort of school's newfound transgender student role, when they talk about their own past exploits, and when Raoul talks about his past life being part of basically a sort of group of friends that he used to be part of, he kind of understood that he obviously accepted that was his past life and this was his. That was his old identity. And you, as the audience, could get a sense you try to be part of something, but it was just clear that wasn't the path you wanted. I think the problem is ParaNorman is a film that is trying to be a good idea. It's trying to do something with the whole Salem witch era and showing the consequences of idolizing it despite its negatives back at that era. It's an okay film, not the best, but it definitely deserves thumbs in the middle. Kind of alright, but kind of okay. So, comic reviewer here, signing out.